If there are no questions, it's 7:01, and we will begin our special call council meeting. Stand for prayer. Pledge of allegiance. Chris, would you lead us in prayer?
Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day that you allowed us to see that wasn't promised to us. We thank you for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace, Lord. We pray tonight that you will lead and guide us to make the wise decisions on the business of Overton, Texas, Lord. We thank you. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. At this time, we'll have a public forum, and each individual will be allowed 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak on a posted item agenda must complete a speaker card and his or her name and address, must identify the agenda item number for which he/she would like to speak. Speaker card must be presented to Connie, interim city secretary, prior to the meeting, so that the speaker may be recognized by the chair at the appropriate time. Speakers will be each allowed 3 minutes time period to provide comments regarding the posted agenda items for which the request to speak was submitted, and may speak before or during the council's consideration agenda. Please be advised by law, the city council may not respond to any comments or questions asked of them by the speaker for items not listed on the agenda. Any response by a member of the city council or staff is limited to Texas law by statement of specific factual information, recitation of existing policy, or proposal to place the subject on the agenda for the future city council meeting. At this time, we have Mr. Larry Calhoun. I'm sure that mic is on. I can't see the light. Can you see the light on that? That I need to hold. That mic on?
Mic check.
There you go. Got it.
Good evening. I'm Larry Calhoun. I'm the superintendent for Overton ISD. I wanted to address the potential for the golf course in relation to our school district. First, we do have a golf team, but almost all of our golfers are also baseball players, softball players, track athletes, or some combination thereof. And just getting a structured practice together is a challenge for us. So to have a course available here in Overton where our players could have more frequent access would be a huge benefit to them. In addition to having a course would allow us or afford us the opportunity in the future to host district tournaments and other competitions. And then finally, depending on how things play out, we'd love to eventually explore hosting a golf outing fundraiser that could benefit our district, but also be a marquee event for the community. With that, I know there are a lot of competing priorities, and there are many things that are going to weigh your decision, but I didn't want to neglect to tell you that in addition to the benefits that might be for the city and the community, there are plenty of benefits that could be realized for our district, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay. Jerry Clark.
I'm here basically to talk about a rumor. Someone on Facebook raised the question, where are golf carts? Are they in somebody's backyard? Are they in somebody's garage? When we shut down our operation 2 or 3 years ago, we had a big garage sale. yard sale. The first person that showed up was Greg Thompson, Thompson Automotive. He bought the golf carts, he rebuilt them, repainted them, and sold them to the average citizen. So yes, they did end up in somebody's backyard or somebody's garage. At the same time, we had quite a few other golf courses that were present, and they were looking at our equipment. We had bills we had to pay, so we had to sell everything. Now, to maintain a golf course, you have to have specialized equipment for the fairways, specialized equipment for the greens. These are very expensive. And a golf course,
Who did all this belong to, though?
Overton Golf Association.
Not the city of
No,
Overton?
this is the Overton Golf Association. And like I say, these other courses, when they see good equipment that's inexpensive, they're gonna jump at the opportunity. Because it's always a good idea to have a secondary, piece of equipment, because these are machines that can break down because of any number of reasons. Now, I might add, we sold ice machines, water, gasoline pumps, coolers, walk behind push mower, everything we had to sell to pay off our debts. Now, I do wanna add this. Everything that we sold, we can account for every dollar that we took in and what we used it for to pay off our debts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kara?
Yes.
Yours.
My name is Kara Vanderkok. I live at 506 West Christine Street here in Overton. First, I want to say that I am not opposed to a golf course working, but I do have a lot of questions in the process of getting it up and going. At the last meeting, it was stated that the council had not gotten approval or disapproval for the purchase of the equipment or the funds to service the labor to ready the course at that point. While it is now true that the OEDC has agreed to reimburse the city for those purchases, it has still not been approved yet. Yes, you are hoping to get some of that done tonight. But before that can happen, there needs to be much discussion regarding a myriad of issues for running, operating, and sustaining the golf course business. Is there a business plan that you guys have put together for our golf course? If so, was it included in your council packets so that they can make an informed line of questions, concerns, a list of pros and cons, and a list of other things that you guys could probably think of? Is there, if not, was there any information provided to the councilman that they could consider and review in making this decision tonight to move forward on this? And if not, what do you expect them to use to make an informed decision tonight? Where are the funds coming from to do this business? Membership alone cannot do it all. It can only do a little bit, especially at the beginning of this venture. Do we have adequate insurance for this venture? How many employees or independent contractors are we, the city, going to need to be able to pay to work for this venture? Well, Mr. Weiderman may be ready and able. Is he working as an employee or contracted labor? I think that has been answered in tonight's agenda, that it's contracted. And how much are we paying him, and what is the total that is gonna have to be backdated to pay him if we go back to July 1st? Does he have a tax ID as a contracted laborer? And does he have insurance? And if this isn't any contracted labor, there must be contract bidding for that contract. Then, once that is done, then doesn't the council then vote on which contractor that they're gonna do? You can't have it open to just one person that you can't pick. You have to submit that out there. Well, where's all the funding gonna come for the purchasing of rental, or the rentals of golf carts, the gas, the water, the maintenance, the insurance, electricity, fuel, clubhouse repairs, equipment storage, needed merchandise, refreshment, supplies, added payroll on our current staff, permits, and the list goes on. What about the golf cart line on the city budget for next year? If we're gonna move forward, will there be a line item for the different things for the golf course? And what does that look like? What would those projections look like that would impact our city? Is the spending of all of these monies impacting our ability to continue to work on our past audits, filling our current staff shortages, our Overton Police Department needs, any needs that our volunteer fire department may need, our infrastructure, our streets, and that list goes on. How can we vote to move forward when there are so many questions that we, the citizens, might have, and that we haven't heard anything to cover these and to put our minds at ease? Yes, I and many others want an operating golf course. I live in that neighborhood. That would benefit me to have that. But it seems like we have the cart before the horse at this point. This city does not have extra money to spare for ventures that could financially be draining us for an unforeseeable future. Please consider to take this slow and methodical and keep us informed as you go forward in this decision-making process.
Thank you.
So does everyone else get 4.5 minutes?
Catherine Baker?
So I won't be as eloquent as Ms. Perry just was about the golf course, but I have the exact same concerns about the pool. My name is Catherine Elizabeth Baker. I recently moved into the Ballinger home at 501 East South Street by the post office. And I was concerned when I heard how readily the council gave over under a $500,000 property. I drove over to SCAD to visit the appraisal district to go and see what that property is. It is owned by Overton. That means that you will be liable for anything that happens on that property. With anything happening during those renovations afterwards, does that come on the taxpayers? Or will that be going to the city councils personally? Or will that be going to Mr. Baskerville? Was any bidding process done? I think at minimum there should be, under the Public Information Act, release of records on what went behind all those scenes to approve that to him. Because nothing was ever posted online. I know that on the message center, it's very, very diligent and we see everything on there. Nothing was posted on any doors. I think it's unconscionable, and I think you guys should be answerable for that decision that was made. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a presentation by Fred Waterman concerning the golf course.
Well, hello, my name's Fred Wireman, and I'm the guy that's been taking care of the course for a month or so. I jotted down some notes here because I'm old, I'll probably forget something, but to give you guys some history of the golf course, some local businessmen, local guys here that still have businesses, and some citizens started working on the course in 1958. It opened up in 1960, and the city of Overton has always owned the land, but they've never run the golf course in any way. The Men's Golf Association ran the course up until about 2018 or 2019, when High Heels leased it, and they ran the course for about 3 years, and suddenly turned it back over to the city. Hang on. There was another question brought up on social media. Mr. Clark addressed the first one, but the second one was why we didn't try to get the carts from High Heel, or why we didn't try to get the equipment. The carts were leased, and they are going to have to pay another 20 months, and then they got to turn them back in. They were not able to sell them to us or anything else. As far as the equipment, they did do a lease purchase on them. They owed, I can't remember what they owed, but they offered, I called them and they offered them to us to sell. And I know there's been some conversation about the mayor and the city manager, and I'm probably as much responsible for them purchasing them without council approval. We got them for, actually, it says $35,000. I talked them down $1,000. We got them for $34,000. Fairwaymore 22, and the Greensmore 12. Well, I talked to the John Deere rep, Jeff Coleman. He lives in Longview. He looks after about 200 golf courses, and about the value of the mowers. He told me at that time I called him, he had a mower just like the Fairway mower on his trailer. He just sold for $42,000. Used mower, a new mower is $100,000, and the Fairway mower, the Greens mower, was $18,500. So we saved basically $26,500 for getting the car to head the horse, I guess. But anyway, I know, like I said, there's been some grief for these guys, and I kind of pushed that forward. And when High Hill turned it back over to Overton, you can't, we had 100-something degree temperature nearly every day for days and days, and you cannot let greens go. That's kind of what their problem was. They weren't watered enough. And so I told them that I would stay on and water the greens and do whatever until they made a decision on what they needed to do. So, anyway, if you ever got any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions?
Could you explain that greens, what's the purpose of greens and how long?
The greens more you talking about, or the
No,
greens themselves?
The greens themselves.
Man, that's the number one thing. If you got bad greens, people won't play. And you got to water them every day. And fertilize them. They're just, there's a lot to it. If you've never played golf. If you want to, come out and I'll show you what's all involved with them.
I was told by some other people that's taking care of golf courses, that if you let these greens go and you lose them, that you can spend up to $20,000 per green.
They cost you about $20,000 to redo them. Basically what the city has been done is given a free golf course. You can either try to keep it going and, most of the people, when I took care of the course from 1995 to 2005. And at the highlight, we had about 250 members and a waiting list. Now, it's not going to stay that way all the time. People join during the summer and then they'll quit in the fall and then join back the next year that are not as serious as.
And if y'all look in your package there, there's a list there of 36. And that's just, there's more than that. That's just what I've gathered up today and Fred's talked to with people. There's more people than that that have joined. And that's not including your green fees. So you got more, there'll be more than that to come.
That's before we're.
As far as my salary, it was extremely cheap.
I was-
You'll find out shortly.
I was told by Jane Sylvie, she said, Overton's got a few things left to offer. The library, the park, and the golf course.
Right.
And after that, that's all we've got left to offer to the people. Or anybody coming into town. So it's just something to consider. Here's what we got. If we lose it, it's just one more thing we've lost.
I know there's other questions, and, if anybody wants to talk, maybe, or come up with a golf course or whatever, I'm game.
What's the
Been doing this
Wally-
a little while.
While he's up here, one thing, Shane and I talked to High Hills establishment, in a room back there, and they basically, we didn't know what they were gonna do. And they basically dumped the golf course in our lap at that time. But in the meeting, and at that time, they said at that time they would lease the golf course to us for 3 or 4 months through the fall. And they'd lease the equipment to us 3 or 4 months through the fall. And then the next day, it all fell apart. They were getting ready to get rid of the golf carts and, the equipment at that time. And
They dumped it. They
yeah,
dumped it.
they dumped it.
They dumped it.
So,
That's it, thank you.
What was you gonna say, Chris?
What's the condition of the greens right now?
Pretty darn good.
How long did it take you to get them in that condition?
I've been back they called me about 4 months ago, and they basically didn't water through the winter. And, you hit spots in the middle of the green, the 4 different greens that just didn't have any grass. And they're about they're almost all covered. We've always had a problem with number one, for 50 years. That green's been bad and it's, you know, it at some point probably would need to be redone, but not right now. I mean, it's plenty playable right this second. I mean, we were running, I mean, you're talking about the membership, you can't, High Hill was running around $6,000 to $8,000 a month in just green fee. This year, up until June when they quit. 3,000, I think we're in 3,000 in January, 6,000 in February, and then on up. So that was just,
That's just what they reported.
yeah, we had some theft too, we know of, but I'm not. But anyway, the green fees is obviously on top of the membership, so you had 100 members, $10,000, and you had 15, 16, 17,000 total. You can run a golf course on that, or at least that one. We're really lucky we don't have to pay for water. The water out of the lake, the city lake, the upper lake. We also run a water well straight back into the lake right now, so that's why that lake it dropped initially and due to some evaporation, but right now it's holding its own with new water.
Didn't that water well and all those pumps, all that donated, or was
Pretty
that
much.
pretty much?
20 years ago, I've been to 3 city council meetings now, and the first one was to see about getting that water well drilled 20 years ago. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Rick. What the golfers I have seen, and there's several people, when you're just working out there, they'll drive by and say, what are you gonna do with the golf course? And we tell them possibly our plans, but several said that, it's been better shape since Fred started handling it than it was the whole time he was handling it, so, because they had different avenues to come in. Okay. You have before you the Senate consent agenda, and we only have one item on the consent agenda, and that is approval of the minutes from July 21st, 2022. A motion to approve by. Okay. Motion approved by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Motion passes 4-0. Business item, discuss and take action on opening the Overton Golf Course. We talked to several schools around, New London does not have a golf team at this time. The high school principal says he would like to have one, but because of budget cuts, they cut it out several years ago. But they have several coaches that would, like to play over here, and they said they might start up a team through them bringing kids over. Also talked to, this morning, talked to Wes Smisky, I think, can't read my own writing, athletic director for art, and they would be very interested in playing and bring their teams over, to play in the golf course, just because of the closeness of it.
I'll make a motion to approve of the opening of the golf course.
Have a motion,
I'll second.
motion by Mr. Hall, second by Mr. Williams, any discussion?
I guess question.
Yes, sir.
So, from I guess from a budgetary standpoint, are we looking at as far as the projection plan, is it gonna make money, or are we gonna break even operating every month, or just high level, do we know?
We would hope to break even, but we're gonna have to get the numbers up more than what we're seeing right here. Like I say, this is one day of calling around, and that's just memberships, that's not green fees. I would feel that if we could break even and still have something for the community, that it would be a plus every which way around, even if it costs. We've got some tax-paying citizens that wouldn't give you nothing for golf. But then we've got some, that's what they live for. You know, we're all different, that's why we're all here. And so, we, as a city, I mean, we don't have a lot to provide for the citizens. This is just one more thing that we have, that we bought a long time ago. And, thankfully, High Hills hired Fred to get it back before they dumped it in our lap. But then they did dump it in our lap. And so we can hopefully take the ball and run with it, or we can let it grow up a bunch of rocks and weeds, become just another downfall over it, you know, so it's just, you can make of it what you want to, you can look over, what's that place called over there, Fred, over at Tyler, on the lake?
Boulders.
The Boulders, you go over and look at that, I mean, that was a dump back in the day, as far as old travel trailers sitting over there, and people going out there on the weekends. Well, now it's wide open, you know, $150,000 travel trailers pulling in there, and people balling out with $20,000 golf carts hanging out. I mean, it can be what you make it. It can be what you make it.
We're trying, I know we have to have the equipment to start it up. You have to have golf carts, you have to have green mowers, you have to have fairway mowers. Otherwise, we're trying to run it, work it as cheaply as possible. Fred has volunteered here, and there will be one employee, and probably need an employee for the building of some type. But in this list here, and Shane didn't mark them here, but when I gave this list to Fred, I think there were 3 guys on there that listed, put a V by volunteer. There's some of those that, there's one of them that mows the greens over there in Troop. He came over here and see what he could do to help Fred out over here. And that's what some of them do. So if they can get a few volunteers like that, we're not gonna need very many employees. And maybe we'll get a golf association turned up again, we might turn it back over to them. So maybe we might get rid of it. But they need the equipment to run.
So how much is the green fees?
You got that list? Did you bring that list with you?
What?
Can we get Fred back then?
Yeah, Fred, we need you.
Yeah.
What are we talking about, green fees during the week? And
Well, we discussed it, we could either do $20 as a half a carton green fee, or 25, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we do 35.
we're looking at, I think mainly when we first talked about it, 25 and 35 on the weekends, and $100 per month for family use. They can come play more money.
That's for membership.
And for the school, what I've been telling the schools, and Mr. Clary knows that, 250, we're trying to work with the schools on this. Some of them have very small teams, like 250 per month during the months they play, and then let the kids come play during the summer, just to keep in practice or something like that, do it for our youth.
There's another
Something
thing,
like that.
my salary goes way short. I will just come up and help out, just to volunteer. So, I
Now, you
mean,
didn't tell me that.
That's until after the first year, till you.
well, I'm still gonna come up and help, just like I'm doing now, but I just can't draw any money. It's that deal, so.
But you can next year.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you don't need a superintendent after the frost. The grass is dormant, it's dead, you might go out once a week and cut the grains just to clean the leaves and stuff up off of them, but you don't need it. And obviously, you need to water them, you know, when you've had 4 or 5 days of dry weather, you can't let them get dry, especially when it gets cold.
Well, I've had somebody reach out to me and told me if we lost you, that they'd be glad to come to work here for $100,000 a year. So I feel like we're pretty fortunate.
I think we're getting it real cheap.
So that $100
Yeah, that's a family.
Your kids, your wife,
How many games?
That's any,
You play every
that's
day?
whatever.
you got your own cart, you can.
That's
you
for
can play
18
for,
holes, is that
it's
correct?
18 holes. If you got your own cart, you can play, as many holes you want to, like, all day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've had young kids do that.
Where you renting the carts at?
It's hard, but,
Still in the works.
Period.
yeah, it's kind of still,
He can break.
we're gonna, I tell you this, we'll be cheaper than anybody else.
Couldn't see him.
Basically, you got Ark, Troop, Henderson, and Kilgore, is your competition, and we'll be cheaper than them. As far as carpet.
And you're gonna have tournaments out there too.
We will work up to that. I don't know if we'll have them this year, but,
Two guys won't have a scramble right now.
well, yeah, there is, the Moore twins will want to have them,
Yeah.
some kind of tournament, or field, or a benefit tournament or something.
Like
In
one of the
September,
guys,
actually.
like one of the guys was telling me out there, and this is when Overton had a few more businesses in it. What it do, people around would come golf here, and then they'd either buy something in Overton while they were here, or eat lunch before they went back, or something like that. So it's not just for the golf, it's for the city as a whole that we're looking at, that it would benefit.
You know, we
And we're
drew
getting a
members,
hardware store, New London, and them don't have it, so they go buy something from the hardware store before they leave town.
we drew members from Chapel Hill, Kilgore, Henderson. I mean, it wasn't just obviously Overton people, so. You know, we come here and
Kilgore.
Kilgore, a lot of people Kilgore.
Marshall.
We were just cheaper
Yeah,
than,
yeah.
we were cheaper than some of these other courses stuff. And the course was in, pretty good shape back then, so. Anyway.
Stay there just a minute, Fred. You, raise your hand, sir.
Scott.
Scott Floyd.
Dot.
I worked the clubhouse the last 6 days that they had it open. There were more people from out of town that came to our course to play. We had them from Longview, White House, Truth, Ark, London. So this little course draws from a big area. And one of the reasons that the guy from White House was, he wanted to go play at Truth, but their membership is so high, you couldn't play a whole rank or 9 holes in less than like 2 or 3 hours, because so many people were there. We're available, there's not a lot of traffic right now. They'll come. It's kinda like that Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. There's a lot of people that still like to play golf.
Jerry had a question back
Oh,
there.
Jerry, I can't see you.
Probably y'all know Johnny Lewis. He is associated with the prison. He was one of our ex-members. He lives right out of Henderson. He goes all the way to Carthage to play. He's wanting to come back to Overton. But I just mentioned to him, we need the prisoners back working at the golf course. And he said, I can make that happen. Now, some of y'all know that we have used the prisoners all around Overton. Now, if we can have a man that has that kind of influence, we need to take advantage of it.
Yep.
We're paying EF $30,000 a year.
Yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah,
As long as Fred's standing
Just one.
out there.
not afraid.
Is there, any kind of kitchen out there?
They had plans to build a kitchen, but they didn't.
Well, there's probably a lot of people around here who will take like barbecue grills or something. Have different kinds of venues out there that you can raise money for the golf course to help, like auctions, silent auctions,
The community building has all
any
that.
kind of something, yeah. To have different things like community get-togethers to help raise money.
Used to have 2 domino tables in it, stay full.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of people around here that play mahjong, you have a mahjong tournament, there's all kinds of money.
Yep.
Or over the weekends. Yeah, something.
So, anyway,
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
So my statement is, if that's what all we have to offer as a city, I think it'd be worth investing something into it rather than letting it go.
We don't
The
have,
thing is,
we don't have to purchase it like Jacksonville, just purchase theirs. We've already owned it, so it's already a plus. You know, you got other towns like Jacksonville buying one to keep it to keep it there for the people, so at least we do already own it.
And we could come back in every month and look at the numbers and see where this thing is going, because we don't wanna sink the ship.
I guess I look at it as this is the last ditch effort for the golf course. We can close it anytime in the future if we do end up being a money pit and, put houses out there, something like that. But if it's gonna stay alive, do we give it one more chance or not?
But this time, or at least we do have a plan for it.
Yeah.
And we're not going in blind.
Right.
We've got a lot of experience.
Okay.
To help manage, so. And I mean, I agree with Councilman Hall. I think it'd be good just for everybody to see how it's going.
Okay.
Value of it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, raise your right hand. 3-4. One abstain. Motion passes. Discuss take possible action on utility cart for the golf course. I think I gave you all a sheet looking like this. Back here, it's got golf carts, and, I think on the bottom part is the utility cart. And I know nothing about these utility carts, so ask Fred if you got a question. It's something similar to what we have running around the city checking meters with, something like that, isn't it? Shane?
It sure is, yeah.
Huh?
Looks better, right?
Well, I hope it looks better. Hope a new one looks better.
You know, this is like a side by side, right?
Sir?
Yeah, with a bed on the back.
Right.
Something, haul the sand around and it's.
All the sand, whatever, look after the greens a little bit, spray the greens, with a sprayer, when they need it. He's coming, last week, a bunch of hogs or armadillos, that's what his name, armadillos got the one greens back there, so they had to haul a bunch of dirt back there to fill them in, so.
The hogs have been there.
Yeah, hogs have been there, that.
How,
We could, possibly get the ODC to reimburse us for this.
how often do we use ours?
Well,
Yeah, whenever we're checking meters and whatever like
Yeah,
that.
we use it quite a bit here lately, we hadn't had no pickup to drive, they're all broke down in
Yeah,
the shop.
it's really,
We're down to a utility vehicle and a golf cart to check meters with. Backup. Right around the backup.
like I say, this one we would not have passed by the OEDC, but we could possibly look for reimbursement from them. In the future, the OEDC can buy, equipment for the golf course.
I thought we did. I thought we did.
Not the utility card, I don't think we had it on the agenda.
For ODC.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
By Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Hall. Any discussion?
Yes, so.
Yes.
So is this the 7925? Is this the utility, the side by side that we're gonna get, or is this just a ballpark estimate of what we might get? If it's a ballpark, do we wanna put a cap on what can be spent, or,
That's up to you. Is this a,
Fred?
Fred, is this a average price or is it 79 25?
Is the price on it?
from,
That's-
Yamaha or what?
Yeah, they're over $9,000. You're getting a city discount and you're getting obviously no sales tax.
But this is the card we're gonna get, what
Yes.
we're looking at here.
Yes.
Will it not change, is it gonna be all right for, like, 60 to 90 days, or will it fluctuate one way or the other?
No, whatever this price
It
is.
is, okay.
Any other discussion?
Somebody gonna bring it up on the OEDC?
Okay, talk to the ODC president and ask him.
Put it on the agenda.
We brought the carts up.
We brought the
Before
other,
we-
we didn't
we
even
got-
think about utility cart when we brought that up at that time, so that's the reason it wasn't on there. A motion second, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Like sign? Okay, 3, 4, 1 abstain. Motion passes. Discuss and take action on purchase 2 fairway mowers. City course, city reimbursement, OEDC, range mower is 13,000, and fairway mower 22,000. That's 35, and actually got it for 34,000 less. And OEDC has, voted to approve this as one of their expenditures.
Motion to approve. Second.
Was approved by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes 3-4, 1 abstain. Discuss and take action on possible lease purchase of 12 golf carts for the golf course, possible reimbursement by OEDC. And they have also voted on those on that same list that I showed you a moment ago. Are the ones that they were talking about. And, the ones OEDC voted for were, for $98.71 per car per month. And you own them at the end of the term, the 4 or 5 year term, Fred?
5 years.
5 year.
What did you say, how much a month?
I've got 98.71,
That's correct.
okay?
And the OEDC gonna pay that a month, or they're gonna pay all of it soon?
Be a monthly charge.
Now, the question, I guess, for Blake, if we bought them, if we shut this golf course down, OEDC done fund us 12 golf course carts. If we sell them, where does that money go? Do they go back to OEDC?
Yeah, it would go back to OEDC, those are OEDC funds, so if parts are sold, any revenue that's derived from the sale to OEDC.
Fred, I didn't see this on this list. You said there were some short-term lease ones for 75 a month, didn't you?
Yes, these new cars will take 8 to 12 months to get here. And, so what we can do is lease 12, they're Yamahas, they're electric carts. And, we can lease 12 of them for $75 a month. And once the new cars get here, they take the old ones and there's no.
They're just kind of accommodating us
They're
till.
accommodating us till they.
So
What OEDC did was they approved this 98.71 for the 12, and at the end of 5 years, you own them. And, there's one guy, those were gas carts, right?
Yes.
Gasoline. There's one guy out there that's been golfing, and you don't know how old that cart is, do you? Gas,
Yeah, it's Mr. Steer here.
Oh, yeah.
91 model, I think. He's still using it every.
91 model, and he's still using a gas cart.
Well,
Run around,
electric
so.
cars nowadays, you get lithium batteries. If they, 3 or 4 years in, those batteries cost $3,000 to replace. High Heels actually got lithium batteries, and those cars, some of them are dying after 14, 15 holes right now, and they're 3 years old.
That's why he's going to gasoline.
Yeah.
Will the OEDC take?
The OEDC, voted for the 98.71, but they backed up and also voted for the short-term lease ones because he said it may be a year possibly before they can get the long-term lease ones. So, and those are 75 each per month for whatever we can get.
Do we have a place to park them?
Sir,
Do we have a place to park them?
we got a place to put the cart, what we'll do with the equipment. Yeah, we got a place to put everything right now.
Yeah, we can get everything in. We
Yeah,
got a place
they
to
had
put
them in
carts
that building
all
right
the
beside
equipment
there.
Right now.
There'll be some future plans for cart sheds for the members, for us to be able to get members. I've been told that a lot, we're gonna have to have cart sheds, but, we got it one thing at a time, and then we can kinda go from there.
What's the will of the body? Like I say, OEDC has voted to reimburse this, or actually will fund them. Anything over, Mr. Armstrong, anything over 10,000 had to be approved by the city.
Actually, any expenditure that EDC must be approved by the council.
Okay,
That's by the local government code. I don't know if we've ever passed any kind of resolution or measure that says anything less than 10 or over 10, but some cities will do that. We've ever set a limitation on it, but my advice is, other than pencils and pieces of paper, if it's a substantial purchase, then we approve it.
there may be something on our books, but Philip Costello had told me anything over 10,000.
I found
Had-
it
had-
in writing for 10,000, but I agree with
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and sometimes we approve, sometimes you pre-approve things by approving the budget.
Okay,
So if there's some things that are outside the already pre-approved budget, my advice is always bring it to the council.
what's the will of the body?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hall,
Second.
second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
No, I do have a question
Oh, excuse me,
for you. So, why 12 points?
Being conservative,
why what?
Number 12.
why 12?
Really, that's not even enough.
Really?
To be honest with you, yeah, we run out. When you get busy, you'll run 12 carts in the morning, you'll have people waiting to read, free up them in that afternoon. So that's what we've always had, but we also had 150 cart sheds down there before they were tore down. And we had all those members that had their own sheds. So right now, 12 with, that's even members are either having to bring their car out there or rent a car.
Just kind of a good lesson here for the city as far as tearing those cart sheds down. We leased that, the former mayor and city manager leased that golf course for $1 a year for 10 years. And those High Hill, the people there come in and tore down the shop, which they said it was ratty and junky, but it worked. And they tore down enough cart sheds that housed over 100 carts. So now there's just kind of a good example of letting somebody else take over something that belongs to the city. And, now we'll have to try to eventually, get it up and running and get it built back where we can get those members coming in there with golf carts.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, like sign? Okay, 3-4, 1 abstain, motion passes. Discuss and take action on hiring Fred, contract labor Fred Whiteman, retroactive 7/1/22. He has been taking care of the greens and everything like he always had. And, several guys out there have told me that, it's in better shape now since Fred's been handling it than it ever has been. All the time High Heels was handling it. He is asking a large sum, not quite 100,000, but, right now, you have it with, he's saying 275 a week. Don't ask me why, that's just what he told me.
But that's only good for a little while, correct, Fred, till you, cause
Well,
you're
we
making.
get up and going. I'm
Let's
not-
still get it up and going
I'm
anyway.
not really, trying to gouge anybody. in my words.
And he puts in a lot of hours
It
out
is
there.
a 7-day-a-week job.
It is 7 day a week job.
He was out there 7 days.
So you better grab him, while he's cheap.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion?
When is this retroactive to?
Hmm?
When is this retroactive to?
7-1, last month.
Okay.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes 3-4, one abstain. Discuss and take action on reimbursement of Fred Waterman for expenses incurred for the golf course. I think you have a sheet like this, and that's the total, is it, Shane?
Yes, sir.
Like that in your packet. Sprinkler heads, gas for the mowers, chemical for some of the greens, things like that. I don't know what all it does contain there. For $405.96.
Huh?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion approved by Ms. Thompson, second by Mr. Hall. Any discussion?
Yes, so
Yes.
moving forward, obviously, there's costs that, go along with maintaining just miscellaneous roads, the loads, and the safety stuff, in order to keep the golf course going. My question is, are we going to give, is he going to have to come before us every council meeting to get reimbursed, or are we gonna give him some kind of means to go purchase the stuff that he needs?
Probably have to fix up some type of means for him to fix it.
With council's
On,
approval,
I think we would almost have to back up and agenda item, maybe and put that with his retirement. I don't know, what do you think? Like,
Next, we can put that on next month.
Yeah, you can put it on next month's agenda if you wanted to. I would say this, I think when you approve the operation of the golf course, I think with that, you've approved
Any expenses?
the necessary expenses to run the golf course. I mean, you know, if we were operating a city pool, I don't think we'd have to approve every purchase of flooring to run the pool. So, you know, to me, unless there's something out of the ordinary, I think once you've approved running a golf course, and you've approved those expenses that are necessary to run the golf course. And I would just trust that, you know, if Mr. Weiderman has an expense that's out of the ordinary, he can come to council and ask, you know, for approval. That's just my thought, but council can do what they wanna do with that, but I just think, again, incidental necessary expenses to run the course, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's sand, whatever it may be, I think you've approved those purchases when you approve operating the course.
and with, some of these places, he's getting supplies at, he has no, Overton don't have an account. Now, I've kinda I'm holding all my receipts, I'm paying everything out of pocket and coming before council to get their approval to reimburse me on everything since I was accused of, misappropriating funds. So, I've got a credit card, I don't mind using that with council approval on places we don't have an account for Fred to purchase things that we need.
And that was more my concern there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sprinkler heads and stuff
Right.
like that.
We may have to set up an account on a regular basis where he gets sprinkler heads, and I know he'll be cheap about it, so, about where to get them or whatever.
But it,
Some chemicals, some sort of chemical places, so.
anyway, with that being said, I don't mind using my credit card, my city credit card with council approval. I'm
Now,
good
does
with
that
that.
fall under us, okay, and
Well, I don't know if it matters necessarily how it's paid for. I mean, it's, you know, as long as it's paid out of city funds, A, and B, there's some itemization every month of what's been purchased. I just think anything that is outside of what is necessary and what's customary to operate the golf course would need to be approved, but if it's not outside of that, then I think, again, it's like opening up a park. I mean, if the city's gonna run a park, then it's gonna go buy fertilizer and put it on the grass, it's gonna do certain things. It's gonna put mulch in flower beds, I mean, those are all things that I don't think you have to come back and line item every month approval of those things, so.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes 4-0. Discuss and take action on adding personnel for operation of the golf course as needed. Right now, I believe the only personnel we may be looking at is somebody to operate the building, just the fees. And, I think Connie had been looking into, everybody uses a card. Nobody's gonna pay with cash. It's getting a card operation out there for as we've got, I think she said we got several laptops. We got a laptop or two up here we can put, so it's just getting the card operation out there and somebody running that. Right now, there's not as much other stuff. So far, Shane has agreed not to sell beer out there, so, and, whatever else is needed out there, so, but there may be some other expenses or other things we might look into later on. So just somebody running the building. And there was a person out there, and I was told the other day that, I'll let that go. But there was another person out there running at one time. Fred just says he's not very good at taking money.
Looks like you're.
He's shaking his head, he don't wanna take the money.
No. You get accused of stealing when you do that, don't you?
So we're looking at multiple people, multiple.
Probably one full-time and one part-time, cause you'll get into cause you're open 7 days, you're gonna get into overtime pretty quick.
Yes.
So,
Fred, do they work all day or just like in the morning or something like that? And
you know, right now, the way we were doing it, to kind of hold down the hours, the girl lady we had working, she didn't come in till about 9 in the morning, and then you really just stay till your last green fee comes in, which could be dark. It used to be dark.
Good.
So,
You want it to be dark.
you really want to be, you want, yeah.
When I was taking care of it, if nobody comes before 4:30, or came up before 4:30 to save costs, we closed it. But a member could come up after that time, if he's got his own cart, and play till dark. But the green feers, you've got to kind of set a limit. If you don't want, like he said, you don't want to pay overtime for that employee.
And if they come out at 5:30, it generally takes 4 people about 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours to play around. So you gotta kind of just, you know,
Get their money and let them have the course and go on home.
yeah. And generally, I was up there after they finished playing anyway, because I had waters. So basically, I have to wait till everybody gets finished, and then I start watering the range. So I'm there. Sometimes, I didn't know Shane went to bed early, and I called him at 9:15 the other night.
Yeah, it's all right, go ahead.
I was still watering.
What are we talking, minimum wage or what?
How much money?
What is minimum wage now? What are we supposed to
I
have?
have no idea.
I don't have a clue anymore.
We paid them, the employees there, we paid them $12 an hour.
But if minimum wage is more than that, we can't pay them $12 an hour.
Yeah, I just.
I don't know what
I
minimum
don't
wage
think
is
it's
anymore.
official yet. It's not official yet.
It's not that high yet.
I think it's 15.
15.
Something like that.
I've seen it.
I don't know. It's like 75.
Google it. 7:25.
It's still low. I haven't played that today.
I would say just kind of treat it like the city, like 12, I mean, we've been, you know, the minimum up here is 14 is what I've seen in policy. So it's 12 to 14, something like that.
Y'all good? Is it gonna be considered a city employee, or is it gonna be like contract?
That is.
It's
Right now, we're talking about contract, I believe, aren't we, for both?
right now, but in the near future, it's gonna have to become a city employee. I would think that's gonna be a Blackwood.
Well, I mean, you could do it either way. You
Yeah.
know, it's very, I use baseball fields as an example. Most cities own baseball. They own a baseball facility. Well, people that operate the concession stand, they're not employees. Now, it's seasonal, of course, but baseball's 12 months a year now. And so, you know, you could do it independent contractor, you could do it employee. It's simply up to what you all wanted to do.
It would probably be less confusing just to do as an employee,
Probably.
in case somebody wanted to throw it out there for bid. You know, I'm not gonna throw, me personally, I mean, you're gonna have Fred out there, you know, get the course back to going, and then we're gonna put that up for bid, and I'm not up for that, so. It's, either Fred does it, you know, I mean, it's just gonna have to be the people.
And let me say, there's no legal requirement that a contract laborer has to be bid.
Okay.
If that were the case, cities wouldn't function.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, cities
I
couldn't
didn't think
function.
so. I didn't think so.
So there are certain contracts that must be bid by a city, but straight contract labor at that, price is not gonna be required to be legally bid.
That's more project contracts as far as.
Yeah, you're talking, well, or equipment purchases. So you're talking about things that are over $50,000 purchases. You're talking about certain infrastructure, engineering. Of course, engineers don't have to be bid. Lawyers don't have to be bid. Those are professional services. But cities commonly hire independent contractors, and they do it daily. And if you had to go through the competitive bid process every time you needed a contract laborer, you couldn't function.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Hall. Any other discussion?
So if we did make it a city employee, we'd have to furnish insurance, right?
That's the advantage of between the contract labor and city employee, there's no benefits, contract labor. We've discussed contract labor so far, at least until we get it up running and see how it goes. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes 3-4, 1 abstain. Discuss take action on posting job for city secretary.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Thompson, second by Ms. Hall. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, so I know that some people are gonna think that it'd be best to save money for the city, for Connie to continue, Miss Connie, I'm sorry, to continue to do the job of two people, but in my few years up here, I've seen several wheels fall off. It's too much to try to do with Miss Connie's doing.
It's loaded.
It's a lot.
We've kind of worked it like this just to prove it to ourselves that it's gonna be too much, and that's the reason it's on here, because it's too much for one person.
More discussion.
Elections, don't do them.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes 4-0. Have any other questions on the budget so far, or do we need to just take it home and look it over for next time? Let's continue budget workshop if you have any questions.
I vote to look at it next time. but I don't count.
Look it over.
Okay,
Look it
next,
over.
Yeah.
next council meeting will be August 18th, 7 o'clock, and probably we'll have a 6:30, beginning at 6:30 for a budget workshop again. And if we get it together, we may post a public hearing for the workshop or for the budget at that time. It's- Any requests for leave? Okay, that's the last thing I have.